Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Wednesday, December 13th, 2017. If you want to connect with us on social media, you can friend up our Last Point Gaming Facebook account. You can follow us on Twitter at Last Point Gaming. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Stranger Sparrow. Or you can always reach out directly with an email to lastpointgaming@gmail.com. Also, I have started pushing the episodes to YouTube, so if you want to follow Last Point, or I guess on YouTube it's subscribe. If you want to subscribe to Last Point Gaming on YouTube, you can get notification of the podcast that way. First and foremost, I want to mention today a thing I've said I was going to do multiple times and failed to deliver on before. I finally did the thing. If you go to the Last Point Gaming Twitter, there is a pinned tweet, and it is the link to access the Google Docs form or the email address to report judges. I also shared the link out on the Last Point Gaming Facebook account. And as somebody pointed out on there, you can either use this to report negative behavior or positive behavior. But the whole reason, I really wanted to share it out is I've talked multiple times in the past about how, toxic LGS environments, if there's an actual L1 presiding over the F&M, this shouldn't happen because there are rules on this sort of thing that the judges are expected to uphold. So if you have an actual certified judge through the Magic Judge program and they are not upholding that, you need to be able to report that in, because they need to be talked to then, and it needs to be explained to them that it's more than just upholding the integrity of the game mechanics, that judges have a job in the community to, foster a better community. Or if, you run into a situation where you're at a GP and you go to report something to a judge and they blow you off. Now, in that scenario, I recommend you keep reporting to judges right up until you get up to the head judge. And take down the names of everybody who blew you off and make sure you report those to the head judge as well. And really, if you want access to the head judge, pretty much all you have to do is walk up to the table where you drop off your match slips and express to whoever happens to be sitting there that you would like to speak with the head judge. But, we keep seeing stories of things that have happened. It's mostly at LGSs. As far as I have seen, a lot of these stories of people being on the receiving end of bullying or harassing behavior, it's not at bigger tournaments. It's in this small, controlled environment where cultivating a negative community is incredibly possible. And if you don't have an official judge overseeing, that gets murky. I'm really not sure what the recourse is there. I think you can still report it to them, still let them know. Maybe if there is a judge in the area, they can, pop in the store and investigate what's going on. I don't know. I don't know what dominion they actually have over small single-person owned businesses. But this is the best tool I can give you for if you're seeing things, or if, you're a woman who's approaching an area L2, asking for, because anybody actually approaching your area L2 asking for information, what you do to pursue your own judge certification, and you're being blown off, it might be worth reporting that. Though, understand, while there is some form of compensation most of the time for judges judging in events, a lot of what they do is volunteer work. So there's a difference between, okay, yeah, I get you, and I'm going to try to get back to you, and their full-time, IRL job gets in the way, or whatever else, and yeah, aren't you adorable? So try not to be too hard on people that you're approaching for help. I was really fortunate to be able to link up with Zach, and he was incredibly helpful. And I was also really fortunate. We do have a lot of L1s in my LGS community that while they couldn't, administer my test or anything like that, they definitely helped me study, helped me understand the kind of rules, interactions I need to be looking at and everything. So I got a lot of help because I happen to be friendly with a bunch of judges. For people, like, if I didn't have all those connections, I still have a kind of hard time reaching out to our area L2 because I don't have a lot of rapport with him. Like, we're building it, we're working on it. But up until, I think it's been the last year or so, our area L2 was a different guy. And even him, that's the guy who administered my tests. I'm still not certified. And, I understand he's busy. I don't know what this process is like. I don't know what they're doing. But, I don't like hassling him. I really don't, because I don't have that same rapport with him. Whereas if I had tested with Zach, I would have no problem pinging him every day and being like, so did you do the thing yet? Did you? Is it done yet? Are we there yet? Just because we have, so much more of a rapport. So, in any case, that link is out there on our social media sites if you ever have need of it. Because I think accountability in the judge program is a really big deal. I think judges represent the community in a very specific manner. And that's why, I don't mention it a lot that, I did my test and everything. I mention it sometimes, but I don't want my views necessarily affiliated with the judge program because my views are my views. And ultimately, I do hold the view that nobody should be bullied, harassed, or demeaned or degraded in the community. So, but I'm not speaking in any way representing the program or, the values of anybody else involved or anything like that. But yeah, judges do represent the community in a very specific way that they really need to be held accountable, and, you need a way to report if you're seeing that they're not doing things that they need to be doing. And part of a judge's job is to uphold all of the rules, including rules that protect players' safety and comfort at events. So there you have it. I know today I'm supposed to talk about gameplay, so I should be talking about GP Oklahoma City. I'm pretty sure that one ended in a Titan Shift mirror match, which was kind of surprising. Actually, I did watch a round where Seth Manfield, I believe, I'm 90% certain that's who it was playing Tron against one of the Titan Shift decks. It was in the semifinals. And he didn't quite get there. I don't think it was because of a pun or anything. Titan Shift's one of those weird decks that if you don't have counter magic, you don't really interact with it. You do your thing, they do their thing, and you just hope you're faster at doing your thing. Killing their stuff doesn't really do it. If you have ways to interact with their lands, which I believe is a good argument to go back to the good old days of Red-Green Tron and play some Crumble to Dust in there, probably in the board, of course. And the reason I would say that over Sowing Salt specifically is because part of the green package in Tron is Ancient Stirrings. Because Crumble to Dust is a devoid spell, you can grab it off the Ancient Stirrings, even though it has a colored mana cost, because apparently that was a mechanic we needed to add into the game. So, you have a better opportunity to tutor it up when you need it. But yeah, that's really all you got. You got to take out the Valak kits or prevent them from, scape shifting and prime timing. That's it. That's your only hope. Titan Shift just kind of does its thing. I don't mean to downplay the skill required to play Titan Shift. I'm sure there are a lot of decisions you have to make to avoid running your stuff into counters and I would say land destruction, but does anybody actually still play land destruction? I don't really think so. Well, I mean, I guess technically smallpox, but, well, even there, the 8-rack's not seeing that much play anymore. So, well, I guess it wasn't seeing a whole lot of play anyway. Just, the amazing Tom Ross, which is why it's on my radar. But in any case, I'm by no means saying that Titan Shift is easy to play. I'm sure there are a lot of decisions that go into sequencing, and you got to make sure you're keeping account on how many mountain type lands you have left in the deck, because the power of it is either scape shifting or primeval tightening out mountains in a way that your opponent can't really respond to just get the Valakut damage. And the best way, of course, to do that is to bring everything in at the same time, so everything sees everything else enter and you get the most damage. So there are a lot of careful considerations when you're playing that deck. I am absolutely positive of it. But for the most part, your only real ways of stopping it are counter spells and land destruction. For any deck that does not have any of that available to it, you just gotta hope you're faster. I find it to be a fascinating deck. I don't think I would enjoy playing it, but I lose to it a lot, so. And, every time I lose to it, I'm like, this is going good. This is going great. I'm gonna get there. Oh God, I'm dead. Like, just all at once, because that's how that deck works. So, I don't know. I did watch some of that coverage, but not enough to really talk about it. And because, I was at work today, and when it comes to WotC coverage, I have to actually watch the coverage. That didn't get done. So I'm going to talk about some other things. Luckily, it's my podcast. I can do whatever I want. By the way, hello to the captain. He may be listening now. I don't know. People asked for links, and I gave them to him, and that was stupid. But here we are. So, as you know, I talk about Todd Anderson a lot because he's a neat person. He just entered the YouTube community. He has started his own YouTube channel. I think you just search YouTube for Todd Searching for Todd Anderson may bring a lot of results because he is in a lot of featured matches throughout the course of history of the Open Series and everything. I'll try to remember to link in response to this post on all of our social media. He has started a YouTube series called Todd's Takes. And last I saw, there's only 3 episodes currently. And they're match reviews from GP Louisville. Or not GP, the Louisville, Kentucky Open, which was a few months ago. I don't know when exactly. But he went over 3 matches. One was Caleb Shear playing Storm against somebody playing, I guess he called it Jeskai Tempo. I guess when it's not Jeskai Burn or Jeskai Control, it's Jeskai Tempo. I don't know. I don't understand what tempo means. He reviewed Tom Ross playing 8-rack against somebody playing Black-White Eldrazi Taxes. And I don't remember what the first match he did was. Because the Storm match with Caleb was the second video, and the 8-rack match with Tom Ross was the third. I don't remember the first one. I'm sure it's somebody I heard of. But the neat thing he's doing there is kind of giving some after-the-fact commentary, which frees him up to, I know when he does the match between Caleb and, I want to say the guy's name was Brandon. It wasn't DeCandio, because, when I was listening to it, not actively watching it at first. I thought it might be DeCandio, but it's not. Anyway, he, at one point pauses the coverage video to go off on a tangent talking about, I don't know, something with Storm. He gave a lot of great information. It's too much for me to all remember all right now. But anyway, so before I've talked about how when you want to learn how to play a deck, you're actually better off finding MTGO players playing it, like streams, than you are live match coverage, because the streamers will talk about what they're doing as they're doing it and say, well, here's this line of play, but if they do this, it completely blows us out. This line of play has a little less payoff, but is much safer. And you can get to know that logic. I've even watched, when I was first, trying to do really well with Rami Red, I looked up matches where the active player, like the streamer, was playing Teamer Energy and played against Ramunap Red. Because I want to know what they're saying. I want to know how Teamer players are trying to play around it, what they're trying to play around, to kind of strengthen my bluffs when I need to bluff something. Know when to kind of bluff that I have the removal, and when to say, screw it, I'm just going to kind of show my hand and play out summoning sick creatures that don't have haste. To kind of next level metagame, I guess. Which could explain why my match against Teamer was so good for so long, is I really put a lot of research into the best way to play around it and everything. So, yeah, I've always recommended that you look up streamers as opposed to active or live match coverage, because you're not getting that insight. You're getting something from the commentary team, which, depending on which commentary team it is either helpful or leaves you kind of going, I know you don't understand why this player is doing this, but I understand. That it's just not as helpful as listening to the player talk about what they're doing as they're doing it and explain why they're making the decisions they're making. So, having Todd Anderson go back and review these matches, I actually found it great to listen to. He seemed to have some good insight. Now, to be fair, I'm not really interested in playing any of these decks. I'm not going to play Storm, ever. Every once in a while I watch coverage of Caleb Shearer playing it, and I go, wow, that deck looks great, and it pretty much plays itself. And that's awesome. And then I remember that, no, he just makes it look really easy. But, I have very little interest in playing that deck. Definitely not playing Jeskai anything, because there's counterspells in there, and just, ew. I hate counterspells. I'm just bad with them. Not terribly interested in playing 8-rack. Feels weird to win without attacking. The Eldrazi Death and Taxes deck, I'm not gonna lie, that deck looks kind of cool. Might be one day interested in playing something like that. I did like the mono white Death and Taxes list. That, I think that's the one Brian Koval got his invitational token with. Is that how you say his name? Koval? Something like that. That list looked kind of neat, but in any case, I'm not terribly interested in any of these decks, but it is nice to get some insight into how they're played. One of the big things that sticks out to me is in the Storm v Jeskai match, Caleb's opponent on turn 3 jams out a Geist of St. Traft. And Todd takes a while to talk about why this was actually the correct move. Where a lot of people will look at this and be like, man, you shouldn't have tapped out, you should have kept mana up to interact with what Storm's trying to do and everything. Because at least in Jeskai, you have counterspells, you have a possible opportunity to interact with Storm, and turn 3 is about the earliest Storm can, with relative consistency, kill you. So to tap out on your turn 3 going into their turn 3, or if you're lucky enough to be going into their turn 4, does seem like a really dangerous move, because it's usually around turn 3 or 4 that Storm starts going off. They've sculpted their hands the first couple turns, and they may not have everything they need in hand, but they have all the cantrips they need. So how a lot of people may look at this and go, nope, tapping out on turn 3 was like the absolute worst thing you can do. And Todd goes on to explain, why the Jeskai player, really can't interact with what Caleb's trying to do. So the only thing he can do is put pressure on as quickly as possible. His main hope here is to get under the storm deck. So holding off, jamming out the Geists of St. Traft isn't necessarily the best answer, especially because it's very difficult to interact with Geists of St. Traft. You can't target it. So, and Storm doesn't run board wipes or anything like that. So, it's one thing if you're looking at running out a Snapcaster Mage for little to no value, when, that can die to, well, I don't have enough to Grape Shot and kill you, just knock you down a bunch, so I'll spare one Grape Shot target on the Snapcaster, but to run out a hexproof threat like Geist of St. Traft, that is, in fact, a really big threat, especially in the deck that runs very few creatures and really can't afford to let them die. That it was the correct move, even though I think Caleb did end up storming off the next turn. So, getting insights like that helps you learn how to play your deck against Storm or Jeskai or, whatever. So, I recommend checking it out. I generally find Todd Anderson easy to listen to. I know I've talked before about how some content creators, I just have a difficult time listening to them, and it's nothing against them. It's something in the cadence of their speech pattern that I just can't, process it. I did actually listen to one of Seth from over at MTG Goldfish. I did listen to one of his matches today running Mono Green Monument, which looks kind of adorable, not gonna lie. I kind of like the look of that deck. But yeah, I generally find Todd Anderson pretty easy to listen to. He is an active pro player. He plays a lot on the Open Series. So, sometimes members of the commentary team, and this is more prevalent with WotC, that haven't been actively playing in a while, try to offer some insights that maybe just aren't applicable to the current format. That, it's helpful, and I appreciate that they're trying to offer from a player perspective, but at the same time, they're so removed from active play that you can tell some of the information's outdated. So it's nice to kind of get these insights from somebody who is an active professional player who, you can kind of trust he knows what he's talking about. He does pretty well on the SCG tour. And also, again, because it's after the fact, it's archive of live coverage, he can, when he wants to kind of make a lengthier point, pause the video so that he can get everything out there, whereas sometimes the commentary team, they start getting into, a pretty good point, but then something shifts on the board and they've got to just keep covering the action, and they have to kind of drop their line of, what are you doing? Stop it. They have to kind of drop their line of conversation. So yeah, I recommend checking it out. Again, I like the guy. Looks like MTGO Traders is going to be changing up their schedule and format again. Taryn's getting really into content creation, which I'm personally really excited about. I absolutely adore Taryn from MTGO Traders. I like Jolt too. Not trying to discount anybody here. And as far as their finance guy, I really know nothing about him because, again, I don't watch Alpha Investments because I actually care what Rudy's saying. I just find Rudy really funny to watch. So yeah, I like all them boys over at MTGO Traders, but Taryn especially. And he's probably, because he's the one I've interacted with more between interacting on his streams and our interactions on Twitter. He's just a fun, happy, upbeat guy. And seems to really be about the fun of the game aspect. He's playing to win, when he does his streams and everything, but, like, he doesn't take losses particularly hard. He doesn't seem to get tilted very easily. He has a punt counter on his streams from when everybody points out to him that, like, whatever action he just pulled was a major punt, he ups the punt counter. Like, I don't know, he's just a happy, positive guy. I highly recommend I always recommend checking out Traders. But I haven't gotten a chance. The post he's done on lines of creation that he's thinking about is pretty long, and I didn't have time to really read it, so I want to read through it and offer him some, constructive feedback rather than, yeah, it sounds great because you're awesome. But that's pretty exciting. I know I've mentioned it before, but if you haven't checked out the new MTGO Traders segment, the Upkeep, posts on Fridays, though he is saying he may move it, which I think it might be better to do on Mondays, just because you can do, like, quick recaps of tournament activities, including, the top 8 decks in the meta and everything. Plus, he announces, like, upcoming tournaments, the schedule as he knows it. So it might be better to announce that on Monday, and, maybe somebody watching goes, oh, there's a GP kind of close to me this weekend. Let me see if let me start seeing what I can do to kind of make it work. But yeah, if you haven't checked out the Upkeep yet, I recommend. Taryn generally tries to stay out of all the community drama crap. He did mention the bans and everything from last week on last week's edition of the Upkeep. So, he's covering a little bit of everything, but he didn't linger long on it. And, man, I can tell you now, I talked before about how, reporting and blocking and muting are all options. I take it back about the blocking and muting. So I'm just, like, of course, trying not to pay attention to any of this anymore. Like, I'm just so done with it, and I'm so burnt out on it. Because neither side seems particularly clean here. And I know that's not a terribly popular opinion, but it's the truth. But I'm seeing more and more, like, people I follow that are liking things or retweeting them, and I'm like, I just don't want to see it. Like, and it's not, I'm just trying to be blind to stuff. People have latched into certain things, and now anything that comes from that area is just going to be automatically looked at as the worst possible, and I just can't take it anymore. I can't. So, yeah, I'm sorry that I told you that blocking and muting would help you there, because it kind of doesn't. Especially when people screenshot and then share the screenshot. Ugh. But that's all I got for today. Sorry it wasn't very relevant content. Hopefully tomorrow will be better. For now, the schedule of, Mondays and Wednesdays and everything, or Monday and Wednesday and Tuesday and Thursday and everything is kind of suspended while I figure out how I want to plan things. I may get to a point where, like, there's a different topic 4 days a week, and then, like, just Friday is the whatever I want to talk about. I don't know. I have to figure out what I'm doing, because I really don't want to talk about the social aspect anymore. Like, I just can't take it anymore. So, but that's all I got for today. I'm in the driveway and the dog's barking at me. So, as always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.